Okay, this is my first time going to try and make a little webcam video, I guess. I just actually beaten The Walking Dead Season 2, Episode 3, which is what I'm going to be focusing on. Um, just to warn you though, there's going to be spoilers, so if you haven't played it yet, don't watch this. In fact, I'm going to probably say a lot of stuff for some of the other games as well. I don't know why my eyes are like off, so I'm looking at the screen, of course. Alright, I'm not going to mess with that. I'm just going to talk. If there's something wrong, just mention it, I guess. But no. Season 2, Episode 3 came out yesterday. I couldn't play it yesterday, though, because I had to do homework. And I had time today, because I got out of class at noon. So, okay. Well, first off, I might as well just explain how my beginning of Season 2 works, because I'm starting from the middle instead of at Season 2, Episode 1, or even Season 1, Episode 1. So, Season 2, Episode 1, Clementine, she lost Omid after she had lost Lee and the rest of the group. And I'd have to assume that Crystal lost her baby because you never see it. So, and then Krista got herself attacked by random raiders, and Clementine tried to save her. I don't know if Krista was saved or not, but I do know that she hasn't reappeared in the last two episodes, so she's probably dead. But when Clementine, escaped, she went down a river, ended up at this one camp place, and she ended up meeting a dog that bit her, and she put it down because it was going to die anyway, and she didn't want it to die a slow death. That's when Clementine ran into Pete and Luke, and they ended up finding her, rescuing her from some walkers, and they at first believed she was bitten by a walker, so the entire group had arguments about it. So they locked her in a shed. Right. And then afterwards, Clementine escaped and grabbed some supplies and fixed up her own wound. And she also grabbed a watch for episode 2. I'll get to that in a moment. And, she also convinced Alvin to try and help her out, since Alvin looked like a generally good guy. She ended up stitching herself back together and killed a walker in the process because she left a hole in the thing, so the walker got in. And then, I made her show that she is generally a nice person, but push her and she will push back, just like I had Lee in season 1. So, at the end of episode 1, that was when she ran into one of the people that was actually the ones that attacked her and Krista, and she ran into a bunch of other people. 400 Days DLC, she ran into some of those guys, and she saw Pete get bitten, and she went to rescue him, and then Nick ran off. Then they wound up in a cigarette truck in season 2, episode 2, where Pete gives Clementine some time to escape and gets the others, where she sort of bonds with Sarah, this girl that's close to her age. She's 11, Sarah's 15. So, also, that was when you met the bad guy, Carver, who's played by Michael Madsen. I'd have to say excellent performance. I still hate that character, though. Just the character, not the actor. Sorry if I'm moving this a bit. And so when they find out that Carver had visited, they plan their escape. Luke and Nick sort of bond with Clementine a bit. Rebecca's being less of a bitch. And Carlos is kind of, well, he's sort of more accepting now, even though it happened overnight. of Clementine, and that was a major question of mine. Why Carlos was immediately more friendly towards Clementine than it had only been a day, maybe two. But moving on. Clementine and Luke go across a bridge because they see somewhere they can take shelter, kill a few walkers. Um, in the traditional Lee style, losing your ultimate weapon in episode 2, when he lost his fire axe to the cannibals, Clementine loses her hammer and drops it off a bridge. Uh, and so they run into this guy who they later find out his name is Matthew, and he offers them, some food since they're passing through, and then Nick accidentally shoots him. Too bad for Nick. Nick's just being an idiot. He even questions about him losing his own sanity, and that's when Clementine gave him the watch from episode 1, sort of helped him out a bit. And they actually meet up with a group that's up in the ski lodge, and spoiler alert, Kenny from season 1 was there, and he was still alive. His beard had grown out a bit more, though, but, I think that was just fan service, because a lot of people liked Kenny. Yeah, I liked Kenny too, but I didn't need him to randomly pop up out of nowhere. But, anyways. Kenny goes and he's not trusting towards Clementine's new group, which is a bad thing, I guess, but, he eventually gets over it. You see that a bit more in episode 3. But Clementine and Luke and Nick, they find out about how they had shot one of their members, and Clementine convinces Nick to tell Walter, one of the people, the truth, and that's when, hold up, major moment beforehand, Walter and Clementine have a bit of a bonding moment outside, just talking about politics. I don't know why. It's because he's a teacher, probably, just like Lee was in The Walking Dead. But, to move on, they actually run into Bonnie from the 400 Days DLC, which she played as her for a bit. And she looked much healthier and, she looked nice and everything too. And Walter offers her food. But it turns out she's working for Carver, who's trying to get the people that you run into back, mainly Rebecca, because she may or may not be pregnant with his child. A little factor that's actually tying into this whole season, I believe. But Carver ends up capturing them all, and Clementine convinces Alvin, who is Rebecca's wife, and Rebecca to surrender. Otherwise, they were going to kill Carlos. And Kenny almost gets Alvin killed. He gets Walter killed because he shoots one of Carver's men, and then Carver shoots Walter, which I have to say is a sadistic move. And so that's when Clementine goes in to save Alvin's life because Carver's going to shoot Alvin. And Clementine gets hurt. She just gets hit, and then she's used as the distraction instead, which Kenny surrenders because he doesn't want Clementine to die since she's his only link to the past from season 1 during the whole survival thing. And so they're all taken away except for Luke, who ended up escaping. This movie's going to be long. Now we're on to episode 3. Let's actually get to the good details. The whole reason why I'm making this movie. Just ignore the camera movements. I'm randomly stretching out my legs. So, episode 3 was when they get dropped off at the place where everyone was taking shelter. That's where the people you could play as, I'm going to say 5, even though there was pretty much 6, from The Walking Dead 400 Days, that's where they go. And most of them seem the same way. Others, they don't. Bonnie's the one they focus on the most, but they only really showed everyone else once. They showed Vince once, they showed Russell once, they showed Russell last. They showed Wyatt once, and Wyatt, he didn't really seem like a stoner self. They showed Shelby and Becca, I think that was their names. They were arguing with each other as they always do. And then, like I said, Bonnie was the main focus of all those characters. They also showed Tavia, who recruited them. I wonder how much the thing would have changed if none of them had gone, or if only a few of them had gone. But right now, I don't know, so I'm not going to try and, discover that. Moving on, though. Carver pretty much puts them in a pen and tells them that they are going to work for their way to get, better accommodations, pretty much. And that's where they meet this one guy named Reggie. He's a one-armed person because he got bit and they cut his arm off to save his life. So, and that's where you're also introduced to two of the other characters that are actually more focused on, which is Mike, this big black dude who just doesn't give a shit about people, and actually, no wait, I remember her name now. It's Jane, who is more like she seems a bit more like Michonne in a way, except without the katana. If she had the katana, though, that would be pretty awesome. So Reggie pretty much explains that he's getting himself close to freedom and is able to actually live in regular accommodations again, and he doesn't want these people fucking it up. And Kenny asks Clementine, just look around, see if there's anything that can be, exploited to escape. And I'm like, okay, blah blah blah, looking around, pulling at this grate. Hey, don't mess around with that! Hey, come on, she's just exploring. She's not doing anything wrong. That's how the scene happened. It was funny. But then I also just looked at the other two people and talked to Nick, who was talking about how he's pretty sure that Luke wasn't going to abandon them since he was actually not with the group at the end of episode 2. After that, they're forced to go to sleep because of this one dickhead named Troy. I fucking hated that dude, but I'll get to the end what happens to him. So afterwards, it shows their first morning. They're just messing around. No, actually, they're just working. Clementine's loading up some ammo with Bonnie, who tries to bond with her a bit more because Bonnie's a nice person, and she even admits that she didn't really want the whole thing that happened to have turned out that way. It just did. So afterwards, Tavia says that Clementine's needed up at the roof. She goes up there, and this was where the first major choice comes in, where you can either do your own work, because she's cutting like dead leaves and grabbing blueberries, or she can help out Sarah, since Sarah's been put into a depressed state from earlier, which is immediately in the morning. She was, talking while Carver was talking, and she was talking to Clementine, and Carver got fucking pissed off, and he told Carlos to discipline her, to hit her across the face, and eventually he did, and he was very remorseful about it too, and Clementine tried to calm Sarah down about it, which she does succeed, I guess. And since you helped out Sarah, which I'm pretty sure that no matter what you do, this next part was going to happen anyways. Since I helped out Sarah, my work wasn't done when Carver comes to investigate, and Reggie's like, what the hell? You're gonna get us in trouble! And so Carver, he sees it, and he gets mad at Reggie specifically. Not Clementine, who was supposed to do the work, no, Reggie. So Clementine and Sarah get out of the room, and then a few moments later, you see Reggie is being like forced back nearby the top of the roof, the end of it, I mean, and then just Carver just BOOM! And Clementine tries to stop it, but it's too late. There goes Reggie, falls down, his skull is cracked open, he's dead. And Carver has no remorse about it either. He calls him weak. And he also calls Clementine strong. Eventually, I'll get to that in a moment. But no, to continue with the part with Reggie, that was just fucked up of Telltale to do. They just introduced a character who looked like he could have been a nice character, and they got rid of him just like that. What the fuck? So continue on though. Afterwards, Clementine is told by Bonnie to do another job, which is just to bring some nails to Kenny and Mike, the black dude that I mentioned, so that way they can reinforce the barriers. However, when Clementine does get there, Kenny and Mike are having a scruffle. Kenny's like forcing Mike against the wall because he doesn't want to be given the orders around. He doesn't want to be given orders by Mike to do a job. So it pissed him off. And unfortunately, it also breaks one of the barriers, and a few walkers get in. So you go through like a quick scene where Clementine's killing some walkers that are fighting against her, and she ends up defeating them. Although one was killed by Troy using a crossbow, and he said some very mean words about how he had to save her life, going all Daryl Dixon style. um, and so she goes back and is actually captured by Luke for a second. And Luke explains that he wants her to get a radio so that way they can try and communicate and come up with a plan of escape. So the night following that, Clementine is alright, hold up. I think I missed a part. So after that, Carver invites her up to his office. And that's where you find out that Alvin got himself beat the shit out of and he's knocked out cold. So Clementine and Carver have a talk because Carver is trying to justify, I guess, his actions with Reggie. He's trying to tell her why he did it. And he's not even going to, say that it was wrong. He's saying that, survival of the fittest, which is something I definitely do not agree with. And he's saying that Clementine has, like, the guts to actually survive the zombie apocalypse, but I made her say that she wasn't anything like Carver, meaning that she wasn't going to be a killer, she wasn't going to kill people just because they were weak or they were going to get in the way. I mean, she's trying to live up to the example of Lee. He has killed people before, but he spared the St. John's brothers in my playthrough. He saved Ben. He did all this other stuff. He did essentially what can be considered good, even though none of your choices seem to matter by the end of it with Lee's death. Spoiler alert! And so Clementine goes back and she discusses the plan, which, Kenny's like, we should just go make a run for it immediately. We need to turn on the speaker, so that way we can get the noise and the horde to come. And Rebecca's saying that we need patience. And so I have Clementine recommend, why don't we do both plans? We'll get the mic, and we'll get the walkie-talkies like Luke had wanted, and then we'll get the PA system working once we have the time. And Kenny actually agreed with that plan, which was nice, because he's a whole lot different in this season than he was in the last season. I mean, he was sort of broken in the last season by episode 3 when both his wife and son were killed. His wife killed herself, his son was bitten, and Lee took care of him, so that way Kenny didn't have to do it. And, but Kenny is a completely different person now, as you start to see in this season. He's still, sort of caring, especially to Clementine, since, she's his only link to the past. I'll get to a moment when he actually, does something good for Clementine. And they try to come up with a plan on who's going to give Luke the mic, the walkie-talkie. And it ends up going in chaos, because I tried to recommend that Mike do it, since he'd be the least inconspicuous, with Carver sort of watching Kenny and I. At least I think he was watching Kenny and I. But Kenny tries to put it on me anyway, so I go and try to find Luke, and turns out Carver figured out the plan anyways, so he gathers us all up, including Luke, since he found him. And then I try to give back the walkie-talkie, but Kenny gives it back instead, and he knew that Carver was going to go ape shit on him. That's when he goes like, oh, you fucker. Boom! Carver takes the walkie-talkie, and he just smashes Kenny's head in a few times. So I have Clementine go to try to rescue him. Boom! She gets hit in the face or the neck by Toby, or yeah, I think it was Toby. That guy, he was a fucking asshole. I hated him. And Carlos patches up Kenny, and he's able to walk again, although he probably is going to be blind in his left eye, which sucks for him. Sorry. um, so then they try the PA system again, and this plan actually works, but Carver ends up stopping the group. Along the way, also, Alvin, he gets up from his unconscious state, but he's in very bad shape, and the guards are coming up to go investigate. So he just gives Clementine some time. He says that she needs to go and regroup with the others, and that he'll hold them off. So he takes Carver's revolver, which he makes a joke about it. He talks about how Carver has like all these big balls and everything, being all tough and whatnot, and yet he uses the smallest fucking gun in the universe. Love that. Although I could have also said that maybe he wasn't overcompensating for something. Away from that joke though, moving on. Alvin unfortunately dies. He gets shot, and he knew it was going to happen anyways, but he does shoot the person that shot him as well. And Clementine was there to see it, and when she tells Rebecca later, it's just sad. But Carver ends up capturing the rest of them still, and so Clementine comes in, saves them all by kicking Carver's gun away, and that's when Luke gets a hold of it. Luke says that they should tie him up and leave him. But Rebecca, after hearing that Alvin's dead, she says, kill him. And I'm like, why don't we just tie him up? Let's go. And Luke agrees with me, but then boom! Boom! Shot in the legs. By who? Kenny. This is where the big parts come in. Kenny shoots Carver in the legs, which should have just been the end of it. I mean, he wouldn't have had that much of a chance to escape. But he did. But no, he didn't escape. He didn't have much of a chance to escape with the leg shot out. But Kenny does not stop there. He goes, grabs a crowbar, and tells them all, you don't want to see this. Which, originally in the trailer, I thought he said, you're gonna want to see this? No, he said, you don't want to see this. Which made me understand now. Kenny was going to brutalize Carver, probably in retaliation for his eye. And Rebecca was there to watch too. But Clementine had the option of whether or not to watch it, and I chose not to prove Carver wrong, that I was not like him. And so, when I walked away, afterwards, Sarita was like, that Kenny's not the man I used to know. And, I wanted to explain to her there that Kenny's been through a lot, and I guess he does sort of deserve some, I guess he does sort of deserve some retaliation for Carver hitting him in the face a million times, but not in the way that Kenny wanted to do it, with a fucking crowbar. Plus, he shot him in the legs. That should be good enough. Leave him to the walkers. I mean, if Carver escapes, so be it. He won't be able to go after you for at least 2 months. Because, it takes about 2 months for bones to heal. Maybe 3, depending on the injury. To move on now, though, this was where the end part comes in. The walkers have started coming because of the whole thing, and so they start covering themselves up in guts. And that's when, this is the end part. This is the freaky part. They get themselves all covered, they start to walk and everything. You see the guns going off because, the people that are still alive, which I'm pretty sure is also the group from 400 Days, they start using their guns. They're starting to mow down the walkers, while Clementine and the group is walking through. But Sarah, she is having a nervous breakdown, which is bad. That's why Carlos said that she's not like Clementine in the beginning, in the first episode, at the end of it. That's when you start to see it. Alright? She's soft, she's crying a lot in the episode, and right there, this is where the kicker comes in. Clementine tries to help her, but then Carlos gets caught by the walkers and gets bitten. Like at the throat, so you can't save his life. And that's when she screams, and then she runs. And you don't know what happened to her. It's shown as a preview in the 4th episode, but otherwise, she might be dead, she might be alive. It might all depend on what happens in the next episode. I would like to, in my personal opinion, I think Clementine might be able to rescue her, but otherwise, I just don't know. Now, to finish it off real quick, there's one last thing that happens. Clementine sees Sarita has been attacked by walkers too. She got caught as well, and she got bitten on her arm. And the game gives you the option to either hit the walker or cut off her arm. Now, you could do the same option in episode 5 of season 1 of The Walking Dead with Lee. However, I didn't cut off Lee's arm in episode 5 because I figured by time-wise, it was too late. Like Rick does in season 3 of The Walking Dead, Herschel got bitten in the leg, and he cut it off almost immediately. Lee had his arm on for at least a half hour to an hour, so I didn't cut off his arm. And I let Clementine shoot him so that way she knew that sometimes sacrifice needs to be made. So if someone gets bitten and they don't want to cut off their arm, and they know they're going to die, shoot them in the head, give them some mercy. But with Sarita, it was immediate. She got her arm bit immediately. So I'm like, if it worked for Reggie, and if Clementine saw that it worked for Reggie, she should take the chance. She had a hatchet, so boom! And Sarita's like, what? And she's, screaming because she's still in pain anyways, because the walker, and then boom! Yeah! That's pretty much how it went. She screamed, and then it showed the preview for episode 4. Now, with the preview there, it showed that Sarah's glasses were found. They were broken on one lens, the left lens. That Luke probably is being slow again, or disappearing like he did in episode 2. What the fuck, Luke? And then, what had happened was, it also showed that Kenny got his bandage removed, and his eye's probably worse for wear. If he can still see out of it, cool. He'd be like Zaid Masani, who can still see out of his bad eye. It's just, a little harder for him to read and see, I guess. It's also just like Agent York from Red vs. Blue, who also had the fuzzy eye because of a grenade that exploded in his face. So, but, no, to finish off, they also try to go into this new person called Jane, and she tries to say that Clementine will not be able to save everyone. Which is kind of apparent, I guess, because they also show that the group is being attacked by a large horde of walkers, probably in the place that they go to, to meet up. And I'm wondering just what's going to happen, because Rebecca's also having some problems. The baby's probably close to delivery, and I think that this season is going to get even more chaotic. And if Carver actually somehow survived that, they're going to have hell on their hands. Alright, one last thing before I stop recording this and split it up a bit, which you guys won't see. Toby. That fucking asshole got what he deserved. Jane, the person that was, not talkative and came up with the whole wearing the guts idea, she sort of tricks him because he's going like, what the fuck is going on with his AK? And she just walks up to him and she's like, come on, we wanted to escape, remember? We wanted to go. And when he actually looks like he's going to accept, BAM! She shoots him in the balls. Which is... okay, it's sort of funny. But at the same exact time, you just imagine, don't fuck with Jane. Because that is going to happen. She's going to leave you to the walkers by shooting you in the balls. And that dude was screaming, and the walkers were coming in, and they ate him. That's pretty much how he died. Sort of happy about it, because, it's a video game character. I'm not going to give a fuck. Plus, he pretty much, he was an asshole. He hit Clementine. No one should touch Clementine. And, yeah. But if it was real life,
probably would have commented saying, "Did you really have to shoot him in the balls? The leg maybe, but why the balls?" Well, I wouldn't have said it too loud, especially if the walkers were coming. Um, but that my impressions of episode 3. Besides the stupid the load times on my Xbox, episode 3 was good. It was very dark, very thematic, and it was good. I totally loved this. I mean, I loved the game in general, but episode 3, it's like hitting the nail in the coffin. Episode 4, however, is definitely going to be the climactic point in the entire story for season 2. And I wonder if the 400 Days characters will come back besides Bonnie, because Bonnie left with Clementine and the rest of them, with the exception of Carlos, God rest his soul, and um, well, I guess we'll include Reggie too, since he's dead. And then, right, Sarah also ran off because she just lost her anchor in the world, which was her dad. She was the only thing he had left. He was the only thing she had left. So I'm wondering what's going to happen to Sarah. Is Clementine going to go through a similar experience as Lee did and rescue Sarah? In which case you'd play as Sarah in season 3? Or is Sarah going to be dead? Is Sarah going to be rescued? So many questions, so little time, and I want to figure this all out. But I can patiently wait for the next episode, which will come out after the next episode of The Wolf Among Us, which is a game I have not played yet, but I might look into. I just need to get more money right now, because I'm running low on money. I can only use them for groceries right now since I'm in college. But anyways, that'll be it for today, I guess. So if you enjoyed this video, leave a comment. If you have any suggestions on how I should do this next time, or any topics you would like to see, either on VidCam or with video footage from other sources. And hopefully, actually, I'll be able to use my capture card that I've had for years, because I'm supposed to be getting some kind of device to plug into my laptop that I know it rips DVDs, but I'm pretty sure it should also be able to run other discs, so that way I can install the program for my EasyCap onto my laptop, so that way I can finally start using it. I'm thinking of movies such as, like, definitely a Walking Dead movie, although I need a different video editing program such as Sony Vegas, so that way I can crop out, those moments where you can choose the line. And I'm thinking of other movies like Assassin's Creed, because I've shown some Assassin's Creed stuff on here recently. I have a plan for some kind of funny Halo 3 ODST parody called Rookie's Mind, based off of Freeman's Mind, where you're just playing as the first person shooter guy and you're just walking around in his thoughts because the rookie never speaks, Gordon Freeman never speaks. Just, I'm going to probably do something like that because I'm totally thinking about it. I might have to change up my voice a bit. Not too certain just yet, but I have plans for that. And I also have plans of doing Halo 3, Halo 4, hopefully Halo Reach gameplay commentaries, some Mass Effect 3 commentaries, on the multiplayer mode, even though people barely play that anymore, I guess. Some Soul Calibur 5 content, maybe some Assassin's Creed multiplayer footage too. Yeah, you guys want that, don't you? So I'll include all those, and I'll throw up a video for the 4th episode and 5th episode of The Walking Dead Season 2 for you guys. So thank you all for watching. This has been Blue Spartan 107, signing out.